with Becky Ashenden, who is the founder of Fabric of Life, as well as handweaver Justin Squizzero. Justin creates functional textiles that celebrate the natural world and the dignity of human labor. And he has sort of brought the past weaving traditions into the present and doing some really amazing stuff. I'm really happy to have you both here. I definitely appreciate it. And we've got you here because we are doing two programs, one on a Saturday and one on a Sunday, that are going to feature both Becky and Justin. On the Saturday is the Flax Day. And Becky, I'm going to have you lead off with a little bit about what the Flax Day will entail. It looks like a super exciting day to me, but you tell us a little bit about what it is and what people can expect.
Well, we're going to be comparing two different flax traditions, which I'm really excited about. I was taught some things about flax and growing it and processing it in Sweden back in the 90s. And Justin has been learning from different sources, but not that far away over in Scotland, just across the water. But there are some differences in the traditions, but of course, a lot of similarities. And so we'll be taking a look at what you can make out of flax and then how it gets there. So we'll be just demonstrating getting the straws or the plants from their dried state and chopping them up, not literally, but using a flax break to break off the woody bits and then comb it out on hackles. And then there's a scutching board in there in between. So really some fun tools that we'll be getting to show people and play with and show really how you can turn straw into gold, because that's what you're doing. And so we're going to be comparing some of the traditions and demonstrating spinning and showing things that are woven with the materials. And then I believe, is there going to be a bit of a PowerPoint somewhere in there, Justin, by you?
Oh, yeah.
I think we said that.
Yeah, we'll come up with something great.
And so we're going to bring some different tools down to show you and to demonstrate and to talk about it and take some fun breaks with snacks and it's just going to be a really, really fun day. I'm so looking forward to getting to hear, what Justin has to say about flax, and it's always fun to visit what I know about it, and it's not a tremendous amount, but I have grown it for 25 maybe years and processed it, and it's a wonderful, wonderful flavor. Anything more to add there, Justin? What are you going to do on our Saturday?
That's a great question. I might
people to come and have fun. We're just going to have fun. I mean, you just want to come have fun with us.
Absolutely. Yeah. That was great. I've had this
we want to have fun with you too.
Yeah. I've had a love affair with flax and linen for years and years and years. There's just something about that fiber. And I'm sure anybody watching this video probably has a little bit of that love also. And so I'll see if I might be able to bring down some historic textiles that we've got at Marshfield, some 18th and 19th century linens. Weaving linen is just like my all-time favorite thing to do. So those woven products are super exciting. So I'll see if I can bring down a bunch of that. And yeah, I'm curious to see what overlaps and maybe where the differences are, if there are much of any between what we've learned.
Yeah, Justin, awesome. I don't know yet what we really each do, I don't think.
Right.
Awesome. So it'll be an adventure for everybody. That'll be awesome. And so that is happening on Saturday, September 25th. That is a full day program. It includes lunch. And we do have, I think, 5 spots still open for that. So hopefully we can invite a few more people into that. And then on the Sunday, the 26th, there's going to be another full day program that is going to cover warping. And Justin, maybe I'll lead with you a little bit about, what you're going to be bringing to the table with this program. It looks like, again, it's a little bit of a comparison of different techniques.
I think if you were to survey most kind of contemporary hand weavers in the United States, they would rank warping probably at the bottom of their list of favorite things to do at the loom. And that certainly had been the case for me when I first started weaving, before I really had any training at all I just sort of picked up a couple things from books and I kind of struggled through. And it wasn't until I met Kate Smith and Norman Kennedy and learned the warping traditions that they were taught and practiced, and learned that warping can actually be an incredibly efficient and engaging part of the process. It might actually be maybe my favorite part of weaving. Don't hold me to it, but I do like it an awful lot. And so we just have some really great, or I was taught some really great ways of thinking about warping and making warps. And so I'll be bringing with me a set of 19th century warping bars, sort of what a lot of people call a warping board nowadays, but bigger, kind of like on high, and show some techniques for how you can work with multiple ends at the same time for making a warp, and thinking about stripes and other ways that you can use those tools to make your warping process a lot more efficient and hopefully enjoyable as a result.
Awesome. And so, Justin, tell us a little bit about where the techniques that you've learned that you're going to be sharing came from, where you learned them, why you're interested in them. What really stands out about those to you?
So I was taught this particular technique from Kate Smith, who learned it from Norman Kennedy, and Norman has also had plenty of input on my technique. But I have also been doing an awful lot of reading in early to mid 19th century books on hand weaving that detail the process, and to see how those techniques that I was taught that came initially from Scotland with Norman are the same ones that were practiced throughout New England, any place that there were British colonists. And those techniques were then practiced through early America. And I've been really interested in the ways that the same premise of that technique shows up in so many other cultures and parts of the world. You can see it being done throughout Europe, into Asia, down in India, and all over the place. And so I find it a really fascinating thing that crosses a lot of geography and cultures. And it is, I think, the oldest technique that I can document in historic source. There's an image from the 1320s that shows somebody making warp the same way that I was taught to do it. So it's been going on for a long time, and I think there's reasons for that. It makes sense. It works. So
that's amazing. That's that's a lot of history to bring forward and keep accessible to people.
Totally. Yeah. And, like I said, once you've done it, it's hard to go back to, working with a single warp end or some other ways. So.
And so how many warp ends can you do at a time?
I think the largest number I've worked with at one time was 56. It was more than 48. It was less than 60. It was somewhere in there. I should have written it down. I'm sure I do have a note someplace that recorded how many spools I was working with at that moment. But yeah, we won't go quite that far. Don't be intimidated. Come to this class. You don't have to use 50. We'll go over kind of how you do it with just a few of them, but then you can just keep adding and adding and adding if you want to. And it makes ways of working with color and all of that, depending on kind of what you want to do with it. Can make those very simple and straightforward also. So I'll talk about kind of how you can apply it to different types of warps.
To me, to see how you do this, Justin, because I have my own version of doing this, and I think we wind warps a little bit differently on some level, but it's some of the same concept. In fact, I wore a shirt that the most threads I've ever had in my hand was 50, and I'm wearing this shirt, and so we can have a look at the stripe. So it's a 50 thread repeat of the stripe, and as I say, I'm really intrigued to see this. I'm thrilled to be able to compare techniques and then let people try it out. And absolutely, just what Justin said, you don't need to have 50. You can maybe have 12 in your hand and do it. But there are going to be variations, and I'm really eager to see how Justin does it and to share how I do it. And I use warping mills, and so that will be an opportunity to just compare all of this equipment and talk about why all of these methods work better than that single end that Justin mentioned.
So Becky, your warping technique is Swedish, is that right?
I learned it in Sweden.
Yeah.
And I'm a little curious because I know, Justin, you're saying that your technique is seen in all these old texts. And I don't know the history behind mine. I would love to know the history behind how I do it. And I'm not sure how to acquire that information, but I don't know the history behind mine.
And so did you learn it as part of your school when you went over?
Yeah, it's exactly how they taught us to do it. And it's not dissimilar, but it's a little bit different. And it could be that both systems are going to be things people want to go forward with, and maybe for this warp I use that system, and for this other warp I use the other. But they're not so dissimilar either. It's really the same concept, but some intriguing differences.
It's interesting because geographically the two areas are fairly close together. I'm curious why one sort of stuck in one area and one stuck in another, and you have these two different techniques. Do either you have any insight into that?
I would like a weaving historian to help me with that. If I'm really interested, I should probably ask some of the older Swedish weaving teachers that I'm in contact with, and I might be able to get some answers. So that's some homework for me to do.
One of the things that I am always fascinated by is, within traditional ways of making textiles, the places where there are differences, but also in so many places in, again, so many parts of the world, people often come to the same or very similar conclusions about the most kind of practical and efficient ways of making a piece of cloth. So yeah, I'll be really excited to see Becky's technique. And I kind of wonder if we might come up with a hybrid. We might kind of smush them together, or
and that's how things get developed over time anyway. It's like the technique that I was taught, it's clearly similar, and people come up with things, and then if it works, it's going to get perpetuated and passed on. And so someone else doesn't quite remember something, and that some little other thing gets perpetuated, and if they work for what the weaver's doing, then it will, and it works.
Absolutely. And so the folks that come to this Sunday program and do the warping program with you, Becky and Justin, do they go home with a warp? Do they get to try it out on both types of warping systems? What can they expect when they come for that day?
They can expect to go home with a warp if they want to, absolutely. And I think Justin and you and I talked about when they have a choice of systems, and if they're ambitious, then maybe they'll get to try both out. I believe you're bringing the one you called it something.
The warping bars.
The warping bars, yes.
Yeah.
Bring one set of those, and I have several warping mills, so we'll have, if everyone's doing it at once, it could be that most people will be on mills, but it'd be nice to give people a chance to try the warping. It's like a short memory.
Bars. Yeah.
Warping bars.
Those big pegs in the side are bars.
Yeah.
The name.
Yeah. People can go home with a warp and perhaps a stripy warp of some sort, or I'll be showing people how I just design stripes right on the warping mill. Another way that I use the warping mill that I'll be demonstrating is how to wind a warp half the width but twice the length, and then you end up folding the whole thing in half. So you can use up little bits of yarns and colors and then still come out with a symmetrical pattern. But you can just make it up right at the mill, which can be kind of fun. Great way to use up small tubes.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It's like a lot less planning than my method, so I like that.
I'll offer a few, things that I do that I'm intrigued with that I don't usually get to teach or show people. So, any of my students out there who haven't gotten to see some of these other cool things, I'll be thrilled to share that.
Oh, that's wonderful. So if we can hop back to flax just a little bit. So is flax something that you feel like anybody can grow, or do you need a specific set of skills and property and, a huge piece of land? What do you need to be able to grow flax and be able to do something with it? What kind of resources does someone need to do that? Is it doable for an average person?
Dirt you need a little bit of dirt. Hopefully weed-free is better. I brought a little bit of flaxseed home from a trip maybe 20 years ago. And I can't even remember how much, and maybe a quarter cup of seed, and I had a little circular area. It was maybe a yard or two in diameter, smaller than two. So just a little circular patch, and I just sowed it kind of close. You do it right at the beginning of spring in April, in April, when the ground is just first thawed. It likes to go in when the ground is still cold. And so it basically is easy to grow. You plant it kind of densely, and it's good to weed it at least once. But I've even understood, and I've tried this, when the plant's not too big, you can even walk on it and weed it. If it's densely planted in a big area, you might need to put a foot down here and there, but the little plants will recover. And it just grows. It likes the dank, kind of cold, clammy weather better than some plants. But it's always a little bit of a mystery to me because all those Egyptian mummies were all in linen. So it seems like it's hot down there, but they probably grew it where there was plenty of water. But it's perfectly doable. It's getting the tools is maybe a little bit harder. The flax break is something you could make if you're ambitious. Might be hard to find, but there are other ways of breaking flax. If you just have a little bit, you can break up the woody bits somehow, and then the hackle might be a hard thing to come across. It's something you comb it through the set of nails. But there could be other ways to get around that, and then spinning it is lots of fun. So, do you have any experience, Justin, with growing flax? Anything?
Not nearly as much as you do. I have minimal flax growing experience, but I would say the thing, Sara, that people need if they want to grow flax is a desire to grow flax, and that's everything else you can come up with in other ways.
That's such a great answer.
Yeah,
for literally millennia, people have been processing the bast fibers into yarn and into textiles, and so we'll talk about sort of the I would say kind of pinnacle of the hand tools that were developed for doing this, the sorts of tools that were used in Sweden and in New England. But you can also, improvise. Once you understand what the goal is, you can find an awful lot of tools that you can use to kind of get the same results. And, even down to just spinning it on a hand spindle, doesn't have to be fancy.
And one thing you would need you would need seeds, and the seeds
yes.
for fiber flax are different than it's a different plant from the flax seed that you easily get. There's a big amount of blooms that's grown for seed because you want a lot of seed. With the flax for fiber, you just want little tall spindly plants that have a little tiny seed head at the top. So it's a different variety.
Is there anything else that Becky or Justin you'd like to share about these days, or what people might expect to take home for knowledge and experience from one or the other of these two programs?
It's going to be a fun day. I mean, I'm planning on just having a fun time being with Justin. I think it's an honor to be able to have you come down here and join us for this, and just a day of exploration. I think there's going to be a certain kind of joy that you experience when you didn't have one teacher. You have two teachers that are going to be learning from each other. I just feel like that's a really special kind of day to have.
Yeah, I was going to say it's going to be tons of fun. Most important, and I'm super excited to come down and to learn from you, Becky, and everything that you've been doing and teaching. And I think, just like you said, there is something about that kind of environment and atmosphere where we're all kind of teacher and student at the same time. And, I think it's going to be a very kind of, I'm not going to say casual, maybe that's not the right word, but joyful and fun, collaborative kind of thing. Yeah. So
we have concrete things we want to present, but it's going to be a little impromptu as well, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sounds like a wonderful learning experience for everyone, both for participants and for both of you as instructors. I know I'm really looking forward to it, to having everyone at the Fabric of Life, and we'll be outside. And so, I know obviously people have concerns about COVID still, and we're doing our best to keep this fairly small, and we'll have distancing and we'll be outside in the fresh air. And so hopefully that will help people feel comfortable. And, if people are more comfortable masking, of course, that's totally fine. And so, we are aware of that and want to make sure that everyone stays safe as well during the program. But it should be a great day where we're outside and everyone is just, learning from both of you who are, have incredible amounts of knowledge, in both of these areas and, are just bringing so much to the group that's going to be participating. I really am excited about the upcoming programs.
Me too.
Me too. Yeah. And I think I didn't mention before maybe as much, but Justin mentioned that you'd be bringing down some really nice pieces of woven linen. I also have some pieces that rarely get to come out, and it's a lot that I've woven that do come out, but some others that are older that I'd be bringing out for this special day from a couple of different collections. So the day's going to be too short. We'll do the best we can to fit it all in. We will fit it all in.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you both. I know we're getting pretty close to the end of our time today, but we are definitely looking forward to having you both at Fabric of Life on the weekend of the 25th and 26th. And hopefully we'll have a fun group of participants and a full day of everyone learning something new.
Thank you, Sara, for the invite.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you both.